Hi everyone, it's Frank here at DroneZone.uk with the latest of our podcasts. I'm going to jump straight into this one. It's basically about the new Mavic 2 Enterprise, which, as the name may suggest, is an enterprise level drone from DJI, my favorite manufacturer, as I'm sure listeners will now know. As you can see here, there's my Phantom. Now, I just want to touch on one thing briefly. I said in one of the early episodes that the drone community, in terms of enthusiasts, hobbyists, professionals, really needed to come together in order to educate, inform the general public, and remove the stigma from drones as a whole, as a product technology, and make our lives easier when we go out flying. I also said it's on the part of the drone manufacturers to upgrade the tech in order to stop things from happening, such as the recent near collision that happened at Heathrow. It was mid-air, so it was above 3,000 feet. And I basically said, it's really time that new technology, or perhaps existing technology that's already available but maybe too pricey to put into them. I said, that's got to change. It has to be where these things are just a thing of the past, because it's silly. It's ridiculous. It now turns out that the Mavic 2 Enterprise has basically got that technology on board now. So it has AirSense, which advises the drone pilots on nearby manned aircraft. So there's a thing in aviation, the acronym or name eludes me right now, but it's basically where pilots, the aircraft, manned aircraft that is, talk to each other. They know at which altitude each other is going at. They know the airspeed and direction and so on, so forth. The system that's on board that controls this, and I think it's called TCAS. I'm pretty sure the acronym is TCAS. Now, TCAS basically says two aircraft that are approaching each other, they're on a direct collision course. It will shift one higher and climb, let's say, 3,000 feet, and the other aircraft it will send into an immediate descent, so that the aircraft will no longer be on a collision path with each other. This came out years ago. It's probably saved thousands, tens of thousands of lives in terms of ensuring that pilots are not put in charge of that decision. I've seen some air crasher investigations where that very scenario happened and TCAS was ignored, or it wasn't used effectively, and so two airplanes ended up crashing. I think that is now not possible, and TCAS must be adhered to. So that's great, and it sounds like this technology is now going to be something of a regular feature in DJI drones for one, which is brilliant. It's fantastic. I think as that tech gets better in drones, that's only going to mean good things for us as drone pilots. So that's the one thing. I want to talk about the features. It's got a 12 megapixel camera. It also has 2 times optical zoom and 3 times digital zoom. Both fairly good additions, I would say. The one thing I don't particularly like about the Phantom 4 standard is that it doesn't have the ability to optically zoom. It does have digital zoom, but only in photographs mode, so you can't digitally zoom in video mode, which is a shame. But it does mean that you have to get up and close to your subject if you want close-up shots. And The upside to that is that I find the footage post-production is much better and easier to work with. But it would be nice to have optical zoom, of course. I think on the Pro it has optical zoom, which is great. But the fact that that's coming to the Mavic range is really good, because as I've said previously, these drones are very nimble. They shoot awesome footage. They're really quick. And that brings me on to the next set of features. This enterprise drone is basically, it looks to me, it's geared towards search and rescue and emergency services. And I'm a big advocate of both. I think the brave people that go around the UK and globally, putting themselves in harm's way, risking their own lives so that they can save others. Any technology that makes their job less risky for them, I think, should be a no-brainer. It should be handed out to every fire brigade, every search and rescue team, any kind of emergency service. I know that Kent Police have a drone team now. They're using it for all sorts of applications, and that's great. And I want to see much more of this in the coming weeks, months and years. And like I said, if it can remove the risk factor for any emergency services, all the better. Now, I want to very briefly just show you an intro video. This is the official DJI video release for the Mavic 2 Enterprise, and I'll just go ahead and click play.
Unique and specialized jobs demand a device that's not only by your side, but also revolutionizes the way you work. The Mavic 2 Enterprise is your new ally in the sky. Its compact design makes it ready when you are, with an advanced tool set that empowers you to overcome any challenge safely and efficiently. Pilots of the Mavic 2 Enterprise can extend their vision to view scenarios in greater detail without putting themselves in harm's way. Whether it's getting a broad overview of your entire worksite or a close-up view to identify malfunctioning equipment, the Mavic 2 Enterprise has you covered. With expansive accessories that let you direct team members and operate in more scenarios than ever before.
This is the Mesa Fire Medical Department. Remain calm, help is on the way.
There's been a break-in on the Lower East Side.
The Mavic 2 Enterprise is incredibly intuitive to fly right from your first flight. Precise controls and additional safety features make even the newest pilot feel like a seasoned professional. Obstacle sensors keep safety in mind without sacrificing its enhanced power. This is a tool for any operation with password protection securing critical data and GPS time stamping for identifying precise location and time information at a moment's notice. New tools demand new infrastructure, so we've packed the Mavic 2 Enterprise with the latest tech to update pilots on its surrounding airspace and how to avoid potential hazards while in the air. The Mavic 2 Enterprise is the next great tool that will elevate your inner strength, expand your capability, and power your every move, anytime, anywhere.
You have it. What a fantastic looking drone. The features that they really hone in on in the video I'm going to talk about now, because it relates directly to search and rescue. So some of the stuff that they've put on board is just, it's quite awe-inspiring actually. So for example, you can add modules on, hardware modules onto the drone itself. So it's got, I think it's omnidirectional sensors. So although one image on the DJI website looks like it might not have rear sensors, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, back to the great features it does have. So hazard avoidance is, like I said, it's now incorporating AirSense. So that is aircraft to aircraft, unmanned, manned, communication to avoid any collisions in the air. It also has improved flight autonomy, it is omnidirectional obstacle sensing and advanced sensing system, which it comprises of 8 high-resolution vision and 2 infrared sensors placed on the sides of the aircraft. So that gives it a powerful set of sensors that determine the relative speed and distance between the aircraft and an object, so you can fly and hover with more stability than ever before. Fantastic. The hardware modules that you can add on for practical uses, and I think this mainly relates to search and rescue. So it has an add-on that is basically a lamp, so a torch. You can put a light on anything. Obviously, the upside to that is you can film in the dark, so you'll be able to project your own light. I'm not sure how great that's going to be, but in terms of search and rescue, I think that's going to be absolutely brilliant. It means, obviously, the Thai cave incident that happened a couple of months ago, where that youth football team were lost within caves. They were found. I think they used some kind of underwater technology, but it's that kind of scenario where it's far too risky to put a human in danger's way. But perhaps if there's the opportunity to fly a drone, it's naturally going to be very dark in caves. With that kind of hardware add-on, that makes that future look a whole lot brighter. Excuse the pun. And it means that nighttime search and rescue is just going to get much easier for mountain rescue, any of the emergency services really. So that couldn't come soon enough, and I'm really glad that it's now hit the drones. Like I said before, it's got 2 times optical zoom, 3 times digital zoom. It records at 4K at 30 frames per second, and it has a 12 megapixel CMOS sensor, which is 2-inch sensor. The unit itself is obviously compatible with both iOS and Android devices, which is synonymous with DJI drones now. It's obviously got GPS and whatnot, which is the standard as well. This is a Mavic, right? So it's much more portable than the drone behind me, the Phantom 4, and any of the Phantom range. It can, if it fits in your pocket, basically. Certainly in a kind of satchel bag, like a little laptop bag, something like that. It is truly portable, this drone. I just took the Phantom 4 to Sardinia, and I had to take it in the rucksack. And you really need a rucksack for it, with all your batteries and cables and whatnot as well. So with the Mavic range, they're much more lightweight, much more portable, which thus makes them a lot more versatile in terms of getting a drone up there real quick and getting the shot or putting it in an environment where you need to be ASAP. So this makes it ideal, in my opinion, for search and rescue. And obviously with it being foldable and whatnot, it just means that it's ultra portable. And I think this one is 905 grams, so it's under a kilo. The controls now incorporate OcuSync 2, which means the communication between the controller and the drone itself is upgraded, it's better. And I believe that this one will fly up to 5 miles away, so around 8 kilometers away, which is a huge improvement on the Phantom range, which I've only ever had it at about between half a kilometer and 2/3 of a kilometer, perhaps, because, as I've said before, I like to keep VLOS, visual line of sight. But I believe it goes up to 2.5, maybe 3 kilometers. It obviously depends on your environment, your surroundings, and any interference will degrade that distance ability. But DJI are saying that you can get up to 8 kilometers away with this particular one. Again, great feature for search and rescue. Wouldn't advise that for your average drone hobbyist or enthusiast. Always keep it in visual line of sight unless you want to get yourself into trouble. The drone itself has 24 gig of onboard data storage, which, once again, this is something I've wanted to see from DJI drones for a while now. I usually carry a 64 gig and a couple of 32 gig micro SD cards with me. They're high capacity, high performance SanDisk, and similar ones that are of that same kind of grade. The fact that there's no onboard storage on the Phantom range it's hurt me a couple of times when I've forgotten my case that carries all my memory. Obviously a schoolboy error, bit stupid on my part, but if that ever happens with this particular drone, you're really quite stuffed when you're out and about. You have two options. You can either live broadcast on YouTube or Facebook, whatever. Not ideal, and certainly not what you want to do generally. You want to capture your footage, go away, post-pro, make it, watchable. Or you can save it directly to the handset, but that does mean that it's recording the live feed. And so if there's any loss of the live video feed between the controller and the handset, there's also a loss of video on the output. So also if there's any glitches on the screen, where there's interference or whatever, that will show in the video as well. So it can really degrade the quality of your footage, and it certainly makes it harder to work with. So having onboard storage, in my opinion, should have been done a long time ago, because it's so easy. But I guess that there's a cost factor that DJI did not want to build in at the time. So it's got 24 gig of onboard storage. It's not a huge amount, but it'll certainly, shoot probably around, 40 minutes in 1080p, and however many images, if you're talking about maybe 2 megabytes an image, obviously work it out, you get a fair amount. This new drone also has discrete mode, so you can fly missions that require an unobtrusive flight, especially when you're flying at night perhaps. You can turn all the LED lights off and go about your mission dark, if you like. You cannot do that with any of the previous drones thus far. I'm not sure if there's like a way that you can perhaps crack it in the software or the hardware. I'm sure there probably is, but I've never needed to look into it. But in effect, you can turn off the forward lights on your Phantom 4, but you cannot turn off the rear lights, which I've always found to be a good feature, really, because surely you need something to highlight that your drone's there to other people that are within the airspace or whatever. I thought it was a feature that would never change. I don't do a lot of nighttime flying, so it doesn't really bother me. But I guess, again, for search and rescue, it's probably a good thing. And you'll notice from the video that I just showed you, the official DJI video, they include some footage of Mesa in America, fire department. And it shows the applications of being able to use it. And like I said, taking a drone and putting it somewhere where you're removing, or at least you're making the human risk factor much less, it's a no-brainer. It's absolutely brilliant that this kind of drone is now available. The price point is just over £2,000 in the UK, so the cheapest I've seen it is £2,069. In America, I believe it's running at $1,999, so $2,000 still, which I don't quite get, because with the price of the dollar against sterling, that means that our friends across the pond are actually benefiting from a cheaper rate than we are. Maybe that's something to do with the retail issues we've got going on in the UK at the moment. You'll know I put out a podcast yesterday about the dire situation that is the UK retail sector for technology at the moment. I'm hoping that as drones become more available, because there's so many of them, not just DJI, but Unique, Parrot, and so on, that will push retailers to stock more, not just DJI or just Parrot, but a wider range of manufacturers and a wide range of the models themselves, and thus that will hopefully put Peter Jones, for example, in a position where Maplin is reborn, or there's another guise that it gets brought out in, or there's other tech companies that start their own retail activity. We need something on the high street in the UK, and you've got to have somewhere where people can go along and hold these things, have a look at them physically. Obviously with search and rescue, they'll have teams of people that are going out and procuring this kind of stuff for their operations, and so I'm not really gearing this point towards that, and I appreciate the Mavic 2 Enterprise is heavily geared towards search and rescue and emergency services. So I'll stop bleating on about the retail thing for now. You'll probably hear me talking about it a lot if you keep tuning into the podcast, but I'm sure some, if not most of you, will probably like that, because if I'm peeved about it right now, I'm sure a lot of you are, and something really does need to be done about it. Anyway, this is back to the Mavic 2 Enterprise, professional flight control and app compatibility. So it has DJI Flight Hub. This is a one-stop solution for managing your drone operations, supporting large organizations to effectively scale their aerial operations. So it's compatible with this particular drone, and you can integrate Flight Hub directly into your existing fleet of DJI drones as well. So you can leverage its aerial intel across the organization, whether it's data or content. You will need DJI Pilot, the app for this particular drone. That will be very much in line with the current DJI Go and Go 4 apps, I'm sure. I haven't seen it yet, so I will not comment on that, but when I have had the chance to get to grips with this particular unit, I will run another podcast specifically for it. Now, yeah, what a drone. So, I'm glad to say that this has happened. We now have an enterprise level drone that is truly focused on search and rescue. Couldn't have come at a better time, and the sooner the better, as I said before. So well done, DJI. Kudos to you, and I hope other drone manufacturers follow suit, because as they do, and there's more and more competition within the market, that will only push everyone to do better and offer better things. So great news for UAV aviation, and great news for search and rescue. Great news for any of us that happen to get into risky situations and need the brave people of the emergency services to save our behinds. If you've got any experiences with using a drone for search and rescue, perhaps you were on the receiving end of the rescue, or you were on the search and rescue party itself. If you've got a great story to tell, email me, send your contact information and a brief rundown of the events that took place. Email that to podcast@dronezone.uk. and I'll feature it on a podcast. I'd love to hear some stories about search and rescue operations that have been that have taken place using a drone. Doesn't matter what manufacturer it was and what the circumstances were. I'd love to run a story such as that. That's all for this podcast. Thank you very much for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and comment on it. If there's any comments that are worth reading out, you'll definitely get a shout out from me on a future podcast. And as I've said in previous episodes, if you have any content, photographs, videos, or projects that you've worked on for mapping and data capture, and you want to get a feature on the podcast, or if you'd like to be featured on our social media such as Instagram, then please at us. It's at DroneZone UK. You can now get in touch with us on Twitter as well. We are at DroneZone_UK. The Twitter feed is mainly, we've put that in place to kind of publicize the fact that new podcast episodes have been made live. But we will, as time goes on, start interacting on Twitter a lot more, and certainly putting out news and features and whatnot. But if you'd like to be featured in the Instagram feed, then make sure you at us. It's at DroneZone UK. That's all for now, folks. I will see you in the next one.